give it probably one more minute and we'll get rolling. Just it's being recorded, so if people show up late, they can always catch up. If people can, while we're waiting, if you can introduce yourself on the chat, that'd be awesome. I always think it's pretty cool to see the different communities around the country all getting together for a common cause. Oh, nice. Good to see some of you all again. It's been a little bit. Sometimes we only get together once a year. It's for a point in time. We should do this more often, but for more fun things. Excellent. We got some West Coast in the house, some Texas, some Southeast, Florida, yeah, Northeast, Maine. So I think we're missing the Northwest. I know we have some people from Washington, Oregon. Oh, Spokane's here. Okay, well done. All right, so we've got the corners covered, and the center too. We're filling it in. But yeah, let's get rolling. So my name's Matt Simmons. If you don't know me already, president of SimTech Solutions. I'm here with my team members. We're not going to do intros for everyone, just for the sake of your time. We can always spend more time to get to know each other later. Everyone can reach out to the professional services team. You can schedule your own private demos, your own private tutorials and webinars and trainings. So we do try to make ourselves accessible. I will say ahead of time, so just some planning purposes, we're going to try to dim the lights a bit, not turning the lights off, but dim the lights as far as the week of the holidays, just out of respect for our team and spending time with family and friends, and get us recharged for the big event. So if you want to schedule meetings, try to do it before or after. But the goal of these webinars and the training materials and everything we're doing is to make sure we're locked and loaded, ready to go. People are comfortable and you can relax during the count too. So if you feel that you're not ready, you're not prepared, and we need more material in a certain area, reach out to us. But we're not saving our homework for the end. And all of you being here is awesome because it's like showing that you're committed, you know what to process. And if you just follow the steps, you'll be good to go. So let's go through what we have for not just the technology, but also what we have for support materials to make sure that you're all set. So with that, let's dig in. So if you don't know us, we've been around for a while, a little bit too, doing this for a little longer than anyone may have thought. Really fell into the work of addressing homelessness with the applied use of technology back in 2002. The company started in 98, but had a chance to create the first HMIS data warehouse to help out a friend of mine who was running a shelter that was over capacity, and was able to create the first prioritized by name list with the data that they were capturing. And we're able to help out. The first group was a group of 12 women, and we saved the community $10,000 a year to have women into housing and put them into housing versus keeping them homeless. And ever since then, that became our mission, and is helping people with the applied use of technology. So we've matured since then, since that first data warehouse. We've had 3 data warehouses between that green screen type old school client server IBM AS400 data warehouse to what we have now with homelessdata.com. And we also have mobile technology both for the point in time count, which is what we're here for, but also for the ongoing data capture for street outreach. And together, that's really our framework. And so we work alongside HMIS systems within communities to really kind of round out their offering and make sure that we're connecting with everyone. So there's this is the overall agenda. And so, you saw it on the Eventbrite, but really what we're trying to do is the prep stage. So last webinar was about planning. So you're still kind of like, it's like thinking about a big trip. You get the planning phase, and then you gotta start packing, and then you gotta catch your, like right now we're in the start packing, this is this prep stage. And then we're gonna do the conducting, like actually doing it. And then afterwards, so the February webinar that we have, I'll share, is after the count, doing your data cleanup and getting the report ready for HUD. So if you're not using our tech already, I welcome you to use the chat, ask questions of other people that are using it. Maybe we'll be able to have people come offline and answer like why they use it. But really the key benefit is it's geospatial data capture with geospatial reporting in the back end that produces the HUD point in time report using data that has been industry proven and vetted by HUD TA. We actually licensed our tech earlier on to HUD because of fair housing law. We couldn't have one central database to do all the data capture and reporting and analytics. So that was kind of a struggle. We moved on from there, and now we have both the accounting us app as well as the regional command center to really have a front to back solution. But we're further along than some of the other tech providers out there in the sense that you either have a massive tool that can do data capture for everything, so it's like GPS enabled surveying tools like Esri, but they're broad, and that's awesome for that. But really, our work is very targeted towards addressing homelessness. So you'll see everything from volunteer registration to region and team management to having HUD compliant reporting come out of the box, out of the command center. And I think if you follow it from front to back, when you build something that's intentional and for a purpose, it's going to be better than something that's kind of generic and meant for many purposes. So and we also, the offline data capture is important in our ability to capture GPS locations of where the person was conducting a survey is more reliable than what we've seen with other technology. It does occasionally have the embarrassing news stories because the surveyor goes back to their home residency, then submits the surveys, and they all show up as if they're on the person's couch. Ours doesn't do that. So why do we have to do this? I think it's important to understand and unpack that, because maybe it'll energize you a little bit for the homework assignment. If it's doesn't really feel like homework, yes, HUD requires it. So that's like the key part. But there's other benefits for community planning, understanding your resource gaps, and really engaging people. Sometimes this is the only interaction that people have over a long period of time. So that there's a benefit there. The community awareness part of it is huge. And it's a chance for everyone to come together over a common cause. So instead of feeling helpless, so that's awesome. And if we understand the problem, we can better address the problem. So there's the HUD questions, and there's also community-based questions that maybe can flesh out, why are people not going to shelter? What are your needs that aren't being met? So there's, what community to come from? There's other community-based research questions you could piggyback on to the pick out. So we have our core tech, and we have a base price. If you haven't seen the agreement that we have, we try to right size the solution to the communities we work with. So, and not every option, even if everything was free, it might not be something that makes sense. So these are optional features that we do have, and several of them are free. So anything with that, so known location surveys, free. Family unification with miracle messages, that's free. Shelter-based surveys, Spanish surveys, but you might not want them. So that's why they're optional. So just because it's free doesn't mean you want it. And we'll flesh out some more of this as we go. And please use the chat to pause, ask questions, etc. And we have other team members that can monitor the chat for me. So this is a progression. This is I use my kid's age to help me figure this out. But this is our 13th year for supporting mobile tech aimed specifically to point time count. But every year we kind of iterate and we get better and we iterate and we get better. And a lot of the iterations come from feedback that we get from y'all. So, some of you we've been working with for 5-6 years, some even longer. And I'm sure you can see that we didn't just build it and say, hope they like it, and then move on. For many of you, the point in time count is a couple months a year, maybe a few months. For us, it's a year-round project. So new for this year, some of the optional features like volunteer registration and management. You can now, as of recently, you can upload your own logo. There's new, that also goes into what we gave last year, the ability to manage your own volunteer portal content. And so one of the functions that came out, it's really been a result of the maturation of the PIT process, is this ability to support multiple region selections. And when I say that, I mean, what I'm referring to is with a survey-based point in time count, William Snow and the SNAP's office have really said, you can spread out the count duration. And so if you're going to rely on outreach teams, they might want to go to more than one location. And so you might have to reassign them. So we now have that optional ability to have someone go to location A on Monday and location B on Tuesday. Whereas before, last year, even, you had to take them off of the other team and reassign them. So now they can be on multiple teams in multiple regions. So on the Counting Us app itself, you have the ability to change those count activities. So people can switch between regions if they need to and teams. On the command center, there's new functionality. Linnell Fuller from Stanislaw, I don't know if you're on, but had requested that we had the ability to change projects. She had a shelter that someone did all the shelter-based surveys, and they were choosing the wrong shelter the whole time. And so they had to rekey everything, and that's frustrating. So now there's ability just to change it and put it to the right one. So yeah, we can change response regions, new grid filters. I'll show you that. And then there's some cool new slider functionality inside the command center. We can hopefully have time for that. So what I mean by that is, as far as clustering the markers. So before we had either clustered markers or non-clustered markers. Now the slider lets you choose how granular you want to see those the markers on the map. So this one really came out mostly from the work we were doing in California. We are seeing a significant uptick in people living in vehicles, and I'm not sure if it's if that happens in your community or not. But to accommodate the HUD guidance, where they wanted people that are living in vehicles, also in safe sleeping spots or sanctioned encampments, to be rolled into the unsheltered category for the point in time report. We understand the rationale from their perspective that they're not sheltered projects, but there's an important distinction. They're also not truly unsheltered, because there are supportive services that go alongside these safe parking spots and these sanctioned encampments or safe sleeping spots. And the other part of it, if you're going to map the data, all the pinpoints are going to be stacked right on top of each other, because they're all at a location. And from a resource directory perspective, that's a good thing to have, an address that you can say, if you need a place to park, go here. And when we look at the data of everyone that's living in a vehicle, it's nice to be able to say, well, at least this percentage of the population we have in a sanctioned safe parking spot where they're getting supportive services. So to accommodate that, we created 2 new project types. So that don't exist in the HUD data standards, but we felt they are needed. So, and we were advocating with HUD to have them included in the future data standards. And we appreciate your advocacy and support if you like that idea as well. So the more they hear about something, the more likely they are to have it included. So I'm not talking about any short term. It'll probably be 2020, I think 2027 is the next data standard change. But for now, we're ahead of it. And this is also going to help us smooth out the trend lines if they do decide to incorporate it later. So just know there are these project types. So if you have safe parking or sanctioned encampments in your community, you can set them up as if they were a shelter-based survey. We'll give it a different name. We can show you how to name it on your own. And then you can do the data capture for those people. So this is the other function that's new for the command center. And this is the ability to use the grid filter in the responses tab to choose multiple options and have them show up also in the filter tab. So there are times where, I want to report on all youth, and I think this is an example there. So you're going to need to choose multiple age ranges. So that's that. All right. This is the function I was mentioning about and it's pretty simple, but it's all quality of life improvements. So in the sense that, yeah, it must have been really a pain to have to rekey 60 responses. And so to be able to just change the project quickly, again, it's the finishing touches and something that we wouldn't have thought of if it didn't come up and someone was like, this is really a pain. I don't ever want to do this again. And so, all right, we'll accommodate that. So outside of the technology, you're doing a count, and most of you are COC count admins. So in order to support you, we are trying to be really thoughtful on the different roles and responsibilities that might exist in all communities, and to align our technology and the tools to support each of those roles and responsibilities wherever we can. So new guidance, we'll drop it in the FAQ, but what we've done is we've created basic roles and responsibilities docs for what we see as the key roles. And again, it's just trying to help you manage the process. And if we can have a top-down structure where we spread out the workload as we go, by having all the support, it's gonna be like make your job a lot easier. For the bigger communities, the key role that we've added that also doesn't exist in other systems is this construct of a jurisdictional or regional lead. And if you think about a larger community like Alameda, Sacramento, San Diego, like something like Houston, what you name it, we've got some bigger communities, and it's a big undertaking to make sure that you have everything covered. You have all your volunteers recruited, you have people assigned to count teams. And from us, from our perspective, we can only live in one town at a time and only be at one town, but we have to support, we have the luxury and the opportunity, where the benefit of working with y'all from all around the country, but we have to do it from here, right? So from our perspective, we need to give you tools to give other people tools to help spread out the workload. So the jurisdictional lead roles responsibilities document to me is one of my favorites, in the sense that it really makes sure that every community within your broader community has some autonomy and some controls to help you. And it also, the beauty of it is it really goes back to the idea that homelessness is a result of system failure, and it is a community problem. And if you think of a large COC, like the balance of state for Texas, it's kind of hard for them to really understand what's going on everywhere. But in your community, you drive those streets, you go to the grocery store, on your way to school, whatever it is, or work, you see people, and like who is homeless ideally, or at least that they exist and where they exist. And so that local knowledge, like it's a huge asset. And we want to make sure that we lean on local expertise. And so this, we'll put the link in, but please give us a review. Ask us if you have any questions. Inside these roles and responsibilities documents, with each step and each responsibility is guidance on how to use that step. So, and we can, again, we can reiterate. So if it's something that's like, I'm not sure what to do, use the help desk. And then if we have to add clarifying language or create more guidance, we'll do that. So pre-count planning, all right? This is where we're at now. In order to determine the coverage needs, it is helpful. You don't have to use a known location survey if you have existing data you can work with. But if you don't, we have a known location survey. If you have existing data to work with and you want it to have that be used to inform where to send volunteers or surveyors, where to, if you're going to do geographic sampling and enumeration, which I can get into later, what your high probability areas are. And it's gonna inform how many volunteers and where to send them. So if you do have data it's existing data, so geospatial data means that we need the GPS coordinates, and it's latitude and longitude, and that's really all we need. So if you want to send us into the help desk, so pit@simtechsolutions.com, GPS coordinates that you want to have imported into the command center, just send us the file. We don't want personally identifiable information in there, just GPS coordinates, and we'll import it and you'll be good to go. You don't have that, or if you have that for part of your community and want to add to it, that's what the known location survey is. So this is homework you can be doing now. And one of the benefits of using the known location survey, if you have people that you're training, they've already been registered. And if you use the volunteer registration portal, they've already registered through the volunteer registration portal. If you don't have that, they've already been able to download the app and enter in their setup key and register through the app. And they're able to do a survey. It's a 1-question survey, but you've proven that they can do it. And obviously the unsheltered survey is longer, but it's pretty similar. I don't know what just happened there with all the red on the screen. That's crazy. Wow. All right, it went away. That was weird. All right. So that's this. And then if you're going to use a geographic sampling enumeration model, and that's just a statistical term, it basically says we're going to go to all the high probability areas, the areas that like we really sure they have people experiencing homelessness, and then we're going to do a random sample of all the other areas. And I don't know what's going on my screen, and I may need someone else to take over because this has never happened before.
Looks like somebody is using the feature to draw on it.
Okay. All right. My apologies. If you could try to see through that, it'd be fun. I appreciate it, but I've never seen that before. And if you are drawing on the screen somehow, please stop. All right. So as far as establishing regions and county areas, we do have the ability to do that with using census tracts or census area block groups. Well, we can explain that more. We have guidance, that's on our website. So if you sign up for region and county management, you should have instructions on how to do that. But in this case, you can create your teams based on the population density of people that you believe to be experiencing homelessness. So, and you think about how many people do I need to send? And we'll get into details about setting quotas in a bit. This is how you can create the teams areas or the region areas. In this case, you can actually use overlays from the U.S. Census for cities and towns. That's one way to do it. This aligns with the jurisdictional lead approach, saying, okay, for this city, we're going to have a lead or leads, and you define the city or a city or towns. And then there tends to be, for some of the larger communities, they tend to be unincorporated areas. And that ends up being like the remaining piece. So oftentimes the county or certain outreach staff will go to those unincorporated areas. There'll be a different jurisdictional lead for those. So once they're defined, from there, people that go through the volunteer registration portal can choose what their preference would be for community, and they can be assigned to those regions. And once you've got your roster of assigned surveyors, I used to say volunteers like way too often, and I can't highlight, the benefit of working with trained staff is huge. So it's not just volunteers, it's surveyors, because some people are actually paid to do this work. So lean on your outreach wherever you can. They're your experts. And if you've got, shelter or provider staff that are willing to come outside for, that work in a brick and mortar, uh, the people that understand case management, how to engage people, that's awesome too. So like it's surveyors, not just volunteers. So to set a region administrator is very simple. Once you define a region, you have people, you can assign people to volunteer to that region, and then you just click a little star next to them and they become a regional administrator. And it's that easy. Same thing on team level. If you're creating teams within your region, you want to have a team leader, a team captain, whatever you want to call the person. You assign them to a team, and then you just click the star, and they become a team leader, team captain, whatever your local parlance is for that role. And again, there's guidance for each of these roles. So and this is more during the count, and we'll probably hit on this again later, but just understand that a team leader can control some logistics and management for that, and the ability to communicate with other people on their team. In the past, we had one incident where there was people were assigned to census tracts, and they I don't know if it was like two Starbucks in the same tract, and people didn't find each other. And so we had one person just that left thinking no one showed up, but she ended up going to the wrong place. And like that kind of lesson learned is like, it would be really cool if we had messaging inside the app to control for that. So we use a third-party integration service called Twilio to support the messaging amongst team members. So right now, if your count's already been set up, we are turning around new count activities quicker now. The one part that takes a little bit longer, the two parts actually, is if you want customization for your volunteer management portal or custom questions. And so those two parts take the longest, but we can get the counts set up pretty quickly. And if you've already worked with us in the past, the quickest thing is to bring what you had forward in the past, for the last time you did a count forward, and then we can just tweak it from there. But in pre-count mode, which is what your count activity should be now, you can submit known location surveys, and any other survey that you submit is just going to be ignored once we turn it into active. So you can have people bang away at the app, submit surveys, and that's your training. That can be your training. Like we do have some communities that they'll look at all the surveys that come in, and these people are ready to go. So if you submitted a survey, you're ready to go. So it could be that easy. So we are getting, using a survey-based approach, and we do lean in on surveys, and I'll explain that why we lean in on surveys versus observations. There's definitely some considerations for the timing. My personal preference is morning, in the sense that first off, you've got daylight. There tends to be less issues with intoxication and sobriety. I think it's something cool and empowering to have a bunch of volunteers get together early in the morning, all geared up for the same cause. You should probably provide coffee, maybe donuts. But as far as like doing something you don't normally do early on a Tuesday morning, and having a whole group of people doing the same thing, is really cool. But some communities want to do night, and there's a thought that if you go later at night, everyone's already in shelter. We're not waking people up, as likely. So it's preference. So, but and there are some communities that will opt to do both. The consideration, if you're doing both, is if you do have observation tallies, then there's a chance unless you can spread out your region, you'll observe the same person both in the evening and in the morning. So not my favorite on that one. But the other part of a survey-based count that's worth noting is you can also do the data capture up to 7 days following the night of the point in time count. You're asking people, where did you sleep on the night of the count? And for that, I'd really say use that predominantly for your trained outreach to go back to your bigger encampments. If they don't already have that data leading up to the count, because what you could also be doing is doing the data capture leading up to it, and it's more of an attendance taking exercise of the people that are still there. So it's a big homework assignment. Can we not jam it down into Sunday night? So with a test, with an assignment due on Monday. And so the answer is yes, you can. You just have to be intentional on your process so that you're not double counting people. So on the volunteer management piece, and please let me know if there's any questions that come through the chat that, as I go. But obviously, in order to pull this off, especially a survey-rich count, you need volunteers and you need surveyors. So as far as we have new functionality to upload your own logo on your volunteer portal, that what's shown on the right side, that was pre-existing. So we had that in the past, but you can manage the content on your portal itself as well. And part of what we're trying to do is give you autonomy to if you wanted to change the language or change the fonts or change the logo, you have the ability to do that. And then actually, the other side of it is it frees up our internal resources to do other work. And so it's not this whole back and forth. So we're trying to give you more controls and more access to manage the content and take ownership of the point time count process. So on the volunteer registration portal itself, this has been enhanced as well. A lot of times people were like, well, I'm not sure what region you mean. Or where would I be going in general if I pick this region? So you'll now see some of the key details that are set up by the administrators. If it could be a deployment center location, there's actually the shape file, the polygon for that region on the map. And so people can see that. And if you do have you want to have that option to choose multiple regions, we can support that as well here. And if you're using the portal, the benefit is you don't need the setup key. If you don't have the portal, then you're going to be provided a setup key that you have to give to your surveyors to say, after you register through the app, put this key in. And we have getting started flyers for both those that use the volunteer registration portal and those that don't. So quotas, we're getting, with a survey-based count, you do need more people. It's not like I'm just driving down the street saying, there's one, there's one, there's one. Where you're assuming someone's housing status by looking at them and observing them. And again, I'll get into the benefits of a survey-based count, but there is a need for more people. And if you are coming to us after doing that kind of blitz canvassing tally approach, you might not know how many volunteers we really need because you don't have anything to lean on in the past. And so these are all data points for consideration, and we can work with you on it too if you want help and guidance. But this is an example of using population density from the U.S. Census as an indicator of how many people, if it's a percentage of the general population is unhoused, we can use the general population size to help figure out how many unhoused there would be, and then based on the coverage area, so how many square miles are in that jurisdiction, we can get a rough idea of how many people that we may need. But any outreach teams, that's going to, that you have, they can inform that quota. And they're also, again, if you can spread out their work and start doing data capture now or every day, you don't need as many surveyors the day of. as far as getting volunteers, the biggest thing is to be creative. I like to use broad brushstrokes first. And what I mean by that is take care of like engage all of your providers that you can. Use county staff when you can. With providers, I highly encourage making it part of your NOFO rating and ranking to say if you participate, you get points for participating in the point in time count. And basically it means you're showing up for a community-based event that brings in money for the whole community. So it's going to help you. You don't show up, but you still have your hand out when it comes time for, it's kind of like, are you part of the process? And same things like attending COC meetings, but there's certain, you just like, let's do this together. So that's a broad brushstroke that I would encourage. But yeah, county employees, obviously definitely lean on your outreach staff, people with lived experience for sure, but just make sure you have a compensation strategy that's fair and makes sense. There is HUD guidance on that, but treat them as consultants. Like what would you pay a consultant to do this? It's and over a certain duration of time. So we've seen the figures vary, and I understand sometimes there's limitations on how you pay people with lived experience. Some will be 1099 contractors, some will be paid with gift cards, but make sure that if it's gift cards, it's something that gives them a little bit of autonomy and it's commensurate with their input. Just because there's limitations, the gift card would be because you have limitations on how you can pay people. Cash is king. Right. So, but you've got civic organizations, some communities have, colleges and universities have service learning departments. So, there's also, so just be creative, but there's a roster of different places to go to. And then we also have kind of marketing and awareness kits that you can use for social media. So, and all of that's available for download. And if you have your own design team, or if you want to geek out in Canva and you want to provide things that other people can use, like we'll add it into our community resources. So keep that in mind. This is it's a group project in your community, but it's also a group project across the country. And the bigger thing is we want to get it right. And let's lean on each other wherever we can. So managing the surveys and the questions. All right. So first off, why we do a survey-based count? There's, the point in time count oftentimes is looked at as a separate exercise that we have to do for HUD. But it's, if you can make it an opportunity to really understand your homeless population, and by understanding it means you actually know who they are, like who the people are that you're trying to help, that's huge. It's an opportunity to engage people that might not have been connected with in days. It's opportunity to capture unmet needs and figure out, okay, we've got a shelter, so shouldn't everyone be fine? Why aren't they going to shelter? Well, maybe your shelter doesn't meet their needs. Maybe they have a dog. Maybe they have a partner. Maybe it has, it's all faith-based. Maybe they feel that they don't feel safe there. But there's opportunities using this approach to engage those people that might not be in your HMIS system because they don't go to shelter, and they might not be in coordinated entry because they don't go to the door that you say they have to go to for coordinated entry. So there's also a research opportunity to see, are we serving our highest, our full community of people that are unhoused? So the data, if you capture names and you're able to do that, you're able to match it up against HMIS later. What's really intriguing that we've seen working with some communities is how poor the adoption, the hit rate is when you match those two together. And so some of our very most vulnerable people, the chronically homeless people in our communities, are not even in coordinated entry. They're not on any list. And if you think about the HUD prioritization model, where you're supposed to be allocating those PSH resources, permanent supportive housing resources for the chronically homeless, and they're not even on the list, but yet they're oftentimes some of the most expensive to the community as far as inpatient stays, ER visits, interactions with police. So it can be an eye-opening exercise and make you rethink what it means to have core entry. And a survey-based approach, you're not going to have sampling site bias. And so we do have communities that, and some of the big ones, some of the biggest ones, will actually use this blitz count approach, and then they'll have sample sites where they'll survey people. And then they're going to apply the demographics and the characteristics of that small population to the whole. The problem with that is you've got what's called sample site bias, meaning the people that go to that sample site, whether it's a drop-in center, a soup kitchen, whatever it might be, may not be representative of the characteristics of the entire continuum of care. They're in a location, and sometimes those locations have, like any community, there's demographic characteristics of that location in that community. And so if you apply it just for one community to the whole, you might misrepresent what's happening elsewhere. So that's a little bit of a rant, but I'm passionate about getting to know your population. So within your these are tools that you have and flexibility that you have to make this your own. Right. So you can set the surveys, the order of them, and set the names of them within the command center. So you just go up to the survey tab, and where it says display name, you double click in there, and you can just change the name to whatever you want. We're doing a waterways count right now in San Jose, and it's really cool. It's actually not the HUD point in time count. But what they're trying to do is quantify the extent of homelessness along the waterways in San Jose, and they can use that information to help inform abatement that needs to happen in a housing first based approach. So let's help people out and get to know them, but understand what the impacts to our watershed can be by having people live right next to the water. So everything from human waste to debris to you name it, the litter and everything else that can happen that affects the waterways and eventually goes down and all the way into the ocean here in California. Well, in most places, how do you prevent that pollution from ever happening? And so the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But with San Jose, they were struggling with unsheltered survey, observation tally, vehicle and makeshift shelter tally. And so what we did is we just renamed the surveys to I am interviewing a person, I am observing a person, I am observing a vehicle or structure. And we really try to be mindful to go in that order because we want to lean in with the surveys. And if you can't survey for someone, there's an observation tally. And up at the beginning of the observation tally, we encourage, if it's not in your local setup already, to ask, why didn't you survey the person? And there's reasons for it. There's standardized reasons. I didn't feel safe. They were incoherent, language barrier. I forget all the responses. But the idea is it's like you're making the person say, yeah, I should have tried that first, but I'm not because of this reason. And then same thing with the vehicle makeshift shelter tally. If you signed up for that, it doesn't make sense for a lot of communities that don't have, especially a lot of vehicle residency. But if you believe and there's a domicile, a vehicle, a tent, a makeshift shelter that has inhabitants, but you just can't engage the people. You can't see them. We can record that. Again, it's like the hierarchy. You go survey first, observation, then the vehicle. And then we can infer how many people were in there based on what we collect in the survey. When someone says they're living in a van, for example, we ask how many people are living in that van with them. And then we'll have a report that comes out at the end. It takes the average of everyone that said they live in a van. And so the average is 2.2 people. Then for every van that we see that we believe there's people in there that we couldn't engage, we use that multiplier to create an estimate for that as well. Okay. You also have the ability to manage your survey questions. Now, the HUD questions are locked down as far as they're needed. If you want to generate the HUD point in time report out of our system, there's certain questions that we need. It's like you're solving for X, but you need it, you need the other variables first. So we need age range, for example. If we don't have age range, we can't determine what table shell that they fit in, whether they individuals or they were part of a household, et cetera, are they youth or the adult. So there's that aspect. But you can change the wording, and you can change even the response, some of the labels, if you don't like how that's gets worded. And then for if you do have the option for your local questions, you can tweak to your heart's content. And once the survey is done, you can lock it. And actually, it's worth noting a little bit more. So we do have some communities that they'll include in their process that they have a survey instrument that needs to be approved by X board or X subcommittee or what have you. And we have, and this goes back to lessons learned. So we've had at an instance, at least like one I could think of, where it was approved by the board and then the questions got tweaked afterwards. And then it was like this, it caused an issue. And so to prevent that issue from ever happening, you can lock the survey and then it's locked. And the only way to change it is to unlock it. So just an extra step, an extra control mechanism, just in case you have that process. So you can customize response labels as well. We do support English and Spanish. Currently, again, in Spanish, you have to turn it on, and you can do it from on the survey view. But for any custom questions that the region specific, we do ask for translation help. I mean, we'll use tools that are available online if you really need it, but typically they don't work that great. And so we do ask for help on translations for Spanish questions, for custom questions in your community. If you have custom questions, so there's an optional feature in the agreement, there's a process for it. And basically, I know it seems old school, but it works. And we have a color-coded default survey instrument. It's in a Word document. And we just ask you to use that, use track changes, and then we work together to get it implemented. All right, sampling enumeration. I'm going to be quick on this, but basically use the known locations. I'm not going to hit on this to define what areas we need to go to for sure, high probability areas. And then we do a random sample of all the low probability areas. And it's a statistical method to derive reliable estimates of your overall population without having to send people everywhere. So just and it's something that you may want to spend more time on. It's better suited for larger communities. In this case, we're showing Connecticut. But if you have that where you're just like, there's no way we can go everywhere, it's a good tool. And it's a HUD supported tool as far as the process goes. That's where process, I should say. So going back to by name lists. So during the last HUD office hours, William Snow did say that if you can demonstrate that you can generate a by name list, and it's a reliable portrayal of how many people are homeless in your community at any point in time, you can use that instead of doing this whole exercise. For us, we're moving people towards that in regions towards that, but it's a progression. It's you got to walk before you run, and you have to be able to prove that you can do this and use this data, these data sets instead of your pick count. And so, when I mentioned our first work, foray into this work was the by name list for data warehouse. Part of that was we were missing street outreach data. So we have the Show the Way app to capture that. Half the homeless population in California lives on the streets. So that alongside HMIS data can be used to create that by name list. And that's basically the benefit of having geospatial data is you can run it by community. So you can have a by name list for town X and town Y, and they all know where the need is. So that's about that. I want to leave time for questions and answers. I know there's a lot to cover. We do have dashboards. We do have formal point in time reports. But if there's questions that people have at this stage in the game, let's open it up for that. And I don't believe we're gonna have time for a demo, but I think kind of all of our slides are so robust that this kind of hopefully that was treated as a demo. But we can if that's what people want.
There's been a couple of questions in the chat that have been answered.
Oh, beautiful. Do you want to bring them up, or is there anything worth
One was
noting?
about the geolocation tracking. So I pointed out that it's just a one-time snapshot of where the survey was started. It's not a like constantly tracking movement.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Oh,
That's something
follow.
we that some communities have mentioned, like maybe we do want to know where people go. But yeah, it's the back and forth with the server and pinging constantly where someone's walking from. It's a little bit Big Brotherish, but if people wanted to do it, we potentially could put that in the future.
Follow-up question about cell phone reception. Would you mind talking about draft surveys?
Um, as far as cell phone reception, oh yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, it's just going to say, hey, you don't have a connection. Would you like to save it to the draft? And so we can pull that over. I've got three monitors going. So right here, I'm just going to change my count to the demo. But if you go to hit us, if I were offline, first off, this is my count team and region management. If I was offline and I were to start counting, um, I was doing an unsheltered survey in English for an individual at this location. GPS coordinates will work no matter what, because you've got the satellite conducting GPS. And then even if you're offline and you've already have the survey instrument on your phone, it stores, it uses local storage. So if I say no, I'm gonna answer a few questions. And then the only thing that's required in any of this is age range. So, and I keep left swiping. I got to figure out how not to do that. So I can do date of birth, I can do age, but I'll just do age. Yeah, I'm 50. I'm gonna pretend that that I don't have connection. If I hit submit now, it's gonna submit because I do have internet, obviously. So I'll hit save draft, and in my drafts, it'll be in here. And then I can just find that survey that I just did, open it up and submit it when I do have internet connectivity.
And one thing to point out is just in case it wasn't clear, the GPS is tagged at the very beginning of the survey when you start it, not where it's submitted. So if
Okay.
you are in a bad reception area and you have a whole bunch of drafts that you need to submit once you're back at the office, you don't have to worry about losing that location data because it's at the very beginning of the survey.
Yep. And yeah, so something like agreements. You want an agreement, just email us at Syntax Solutions. We'll get one turned around to you, even today. Saw that. Looks like okay, yeah, because of business rules, excellent. Anything else that kind of stands out? Oh, and you can mess around with the app anytime. Just use the counting us. You use the setup key of demo. So you don't and it'll be look like this. And again, all this is all the survey instruments that we have. For your community, maybe you only have three of them. Typically it's unsheltered survey and observation tally, and then maybe a sheltered survey. But some communities do want the known location data. So family reunification is optional. And that's a bonus survey. It's a bonus question, an unsheltered survey. Do you have anyone in your life, friends or family you'd like to be reunited with? If you opt for that feature, it's free. We have to ask you to fill out this survey about the person that they're trying to find, and we send that data to a nonprofit. It's called Miracle Message in San Francisco, and they help find the person and facilitate a reunion. So it's kind of a cool thing to be able to do because it's not just housing, it's housing with family or a friend. All right. Any other questions? Again, feel free to reach out to us directly. And if you want a demo or a private demo, maybe you want to bring some people out, other people in your community. If you've already signed on for us, it could be a training. If you're curious, um, you know, we can just do a demo, have you kick the tires and take it from there. And then yeah, I will advocate that let's get to the point where we don't need to do the point in time counts anymore because we know who's homeless at any point in time in our communities. So that's what we're moving towards, and we need your help to do that because we need the outreach teams, we need the coverage areas, and we need to get better about capturing every transaction you have with someone that's experiencing homelessness. And with all those data points, we have the full picture, and we don't need to do all this extra work in January. All right, well, let's wrap it up. Appreciate you joining. And if we don't talk, have a great holiday. And we're going to have another webinar in January. And that's going to be focused on the last final stages and really focusing on conducting the count and what you can do during the oversight. So if you haven't seen that already, we welcome you to register, and we'll reconnect then. All right. Goodbye, all. Thanks so much.